So, Aquarius, your February 2026 forecast on the screen, your event chart, which begins with that huge cluster of energy in the sign of Aquarius. If there is something ongoing that you're very invested in, that collective can give you a lot of extra confidence but desire to push forwards with determination. But you can also use a lot of wit and charm in order to achieve your goals, with Mercury forging an epiphysic conjunction with Venus, because that conjunction is in the second zodiac sign of Aquarius, which is sub-ruled by Mercury. So the part of you which is brilliant at expressing ideas and being forward thinking is definitely amplified. But what you have also in your celestial locker is the neat desire of Mars and the drive that he brings, but also that's applying to Pluto. And Pluto in 3 stages from March 23 in 10-11 weeks, and then full time from November 24, has been giving you a lot of push to release what's no longer serving, but also to rebirth what's really important for you. And if there is something you want to start afresh this month, this collective can also be very potent indeed. So communication is important, but also that push that Mars and Pluto give you suggest it's about how much you want something. But that doesn't mean to say that everyone's going to agree. And because the full moon on the 1st, with the moon in Leo, which is a lovely place for the moon in terms of being affectionate, warm and generous, but it is rather protective. And usually your thoughts are with connection, the network. And that can still be the case this month. But because of that full moon, there may be someone who voices some objections. And those objections can really become much more to the fore from week 3, when the Sun squares up with your modern ruler Uranus. Uranus comes into the picture this month on the 4th, ending a retrograde which began on the 6th of September, when at that time Uranus was beautifully in the sign of Gemini, forging a fantastic link to Pluto, but then returned back into the sign of Taurus, and is going to be there through to the 26th of April. But let's go back to when Uranus first went into Taurus on the 15th of May 2018, because it clashed bitterly in an abrasive right angle with the energy of Mars, which at that time was on the anaretic 29th fated degree of Capricorn, and then moved forwards into Aquarius over that period of about 5.5 months of the first visit, but then due to a retrograde continued to chaff up against the restless vibe of Uranus. So if there was somebody who tried to prevent you expressing who you were at that time, there may be a repetition that comes up this month. But the difference is now you've got all the experience of the last 7 years of Uranus being in the 4th house to know with what you will not, and it sounds a little harsh, but what you will not tolerate, what your minimum requirement is. Because Uranus rules the sky in mythology, but it is about higher truth. So your emotional truth has to work with your desire to manifest your individual talent this month. And there may be times when you do feel a little bit at cross purposes with yourself. But Mercury, the communicator, moves out of your sign on the 6th, moves into Pisces, not its best location. Of all the essential dignities, I think this is one of them that really is true. Mercury is definitely detrimented here, because Mercury likes precision, or it likes clarity. And in Pisces, we need to be more intuitive. Now, it is joined on the 10th by Venus, and that's much more promising for you personally. If you have been waiting for some good news about your finances, they can definitely ensue over the following near to 4 weeks. It's just that Mercury will go into a retrograde later on in the month, on the 26th, but is supported in a way, your resources sector, by the arrival of the Sun on the 18th. But you may find yourself having to go over some old ground in order to get a result you want, but something that's been delayed could equally pay out. But what does happen on the 14th is that Saturn returns to Aries, where it's not happy, it's in its full. We all had that collective brief experience when it went into Aries from the 25th of May to the 1st of September last year. And for you, that was a chance for you to find your voice and be in touch and confident about the authenticity and value of what you had to say, because I feel that Saturn can give you more gravitas, and Neptune can, for you personally, because they're obviously coming together again, which peaks on the 20th, can give you some subtlety. But it's all about the message. And of course, this month starts with the planet of messages, Mercury, in that second decan of Aquarius, which it rules, but blessed by the charm of Venus. So your message can be very compelling this month, but that doesn't mean to say that not everybody is going to be up for listening to it. And when we get to the 17th, the first solar eclipse in your sign for 8 years, it's an annular eclipse, but it's in that exact right angle with Uranus. And therefore, there's going to be a repetition of that energy through those 5 months of 2018, and that is going to become even more manifestly obvious when Mars and Uranus come into an exact right angle as this month comes to a close. So what's the meaning of all this? I think a shake-up's in the works, to be honest, and I think it's all down to the tension that goes in within you between staying with what you know and being more radical. And sometimes that tension isn't easy to manage. And of course, it depends on each person's natal chart and the houses particularly, and the position of Uranus and Saturn in your nativity. But I think for many Aquarius people, don't necessarily fit the archetype of being very off the wall and different, and others may. And others may seem to reflect more the energy of a Capricorn person. But what we're going to get this month is in a very immediate and perhaps exciting way in some ways, some energies unfolding which really reveal the truth of what a situation is that perhaps did come to the fore all those years ago. Now, on the 20th, we do have Saturn and Neptune coming into an exact alliance. It is significant because it hasn't happened since 1989. The last time it did, it was in Capricorn. The Berlin Wall came down. But what we have in Aries is intriguing. Neptune could be, and particularly as they both link back to Pluto, Neptune can be a new way that we commune, because it's the start of its 165-year journey. But Saturn can see a more authoritative, cool, and harsher and more masculine, in not a good way in my humble opinion, approach to all sorts of matters. But for you, it's about how you can convey your ideas. But for many of the zodiac signs, I think Saturn moving through Aries will be really challenging. I don't think it will be for you. I think you can embrace it. So be comforted by that. But as ever with Saturn, the more industrious we are, the more we will get his rewards, because he is the planet of outcomes and consequences. And if around the third house we have got new knowledge to absorb, if there is lessons to be learned around our communications, if we could speak with greater care and maybe sensitivity with Neptune in the mix, that's very valuable. But on the 26th, that potential for your finances to be boosted, as it will be by Venus in Pisces and then the arrival of the Sun on the 18th, is challenged by Mercury's retrograde. But just remember, the second house isn't just about loot. It is also about what we value, but particularly what we value about ourselves, our own self-worth. A good time to rethink that with the spiritual dimension that Pisces, the host, creates. And ironically, Venus in that second solar house forges a fantastic link sync with the planet of fortune, the greater benefic Jupiter, through these last few days of the month. And some good news could be linked to a job at this time. But we do have that Mars-Uranus square. So if anything is confining you, and you feel that someone's not really on board with this phase of your life or the year where you're really so determined to be single-minded, it's going to come up, that challenge will show up then. What I'd say is that in life it's always good to have our own individual plan, the confidence to execute it, but it is important to understand that if other people are supportive or helpful, then that's very good too. But there are other times when we really need to own a desire to do something different. Astrology gets a lot of flack, and being into astrology, being an astrologer, is a very kind of Mars square Uranus experience. A lot of people will have a lot to say, and it's not always very pleasant. So whatever it is you really desire, whether it's a complete change of your personal image, whether it's a change of residency, whether it's breaking away from a restrictive or critical family member who's very controlling, if it's reforging some of your closest emotional relationships in a bit of a different way, where you're not necessarily the person who's everyone's best friend, you're there, but you're focused just a little bit more on what's really key for you. And that's something you should not have any shame about. So it's a month in some ways to break away from your own inner restrictions, from the messages you've been giving yourself, where you haven't quite given yourself the permission to really be different and live in that unique way that you can so brilliantly manifest when you feel safe and when you're with the right people. So I think this month can be extremely exciting, and the solar eclipse of course provides a backdrop energy that goes through to the next solar eclipse on the 12th of August. But just before then we do have Jupiter moving into Leo, sector of relating, but also the North Node, the true North Node, on the 26th of July, moving back into your sign, ushering in an 18-month period where you can continue the journey that this month creates, which may see you having to break something down, Mars and Pluto, but with the charm and vivacity of Mercury and Venus, embrace something fresh and brilliant and exciting that's going to manifest itself for many years to come. Thank you so much for joining me. Please do like, hype or comment the video. If you've yet to subscribe, do so now. And please also join me at patrickarundel.com. We've made even more changes to the website and it's really coming together now. If you've yet to order your personal forecast for the next 12 months, please see the link below and get half price, 50% off.